a little different, but it's just me. Welcome back to the East Krokpodcast. Harry's making big moves. He's going to college, University of Wisconsin Whitewater. He moves this weekend, I believe. So he's taking care of stuff on his own end. He's a busy guy, busy guy. He's saying goodbye to friends, all this stuff. It's a big thing. Um, Anybody that's gone away to college, they know. This is a huge step in his life. It's crazy. Very proud of him. Love him very much. We're still gonna video conference him in on a lot of these things, so we'll keep him in as much as we can. If not, we'll have some guests. So anybody listening to this, reach out to the show. Maybe we'll throw people on the show, talk about certain things, whether it's local sports, local events, big things, big news, military, this, that, whatever. I'm down for whatever, honestly. David's working, so he couldn't record tonight with me, but stay tuned. So in the future, if you check out our youtube.com/eastkrokpodcast, every few weeks or so, we kind of put out a little funny video. That's what we're trying to do. At least we did a Mad Libs one a couple weeks ago, and that was absolutely hilarious. We're still in this whole video editing, audio editing kind of phase where it's a little tricky. So the people that have been here now, I mean, the support is huge. We got merch coming out, working with a local businesswoman with our merch, getting some apparel out there. That's all going to be in the works. So get on our Instagram, get on our Twitter, get on our TikTok, follow the show, whatever. Get in contact with us if you know us personally. We're going to try to get some merch out to you guys just as an appreciation for our first-time supporters. I mean, we're trying to keep this thing going as much as we can, even with all these outside influences as far as, like, life, life goes. But today I'm just going to hit on a couple topics, some local current events, sporting events, basically. It's all sports. In the news, we talked the Jake Paul fight coming up, MLB, which we haven't talked about yet on the podcast, and I know there's people that ask about that. MLB, a little bit about that, some NFL stuff, and maybe some college football stuff. We'll touch base on a lot of that. Just kind of hit some current events, current news, if anybody's missed it, or if you haven't watched or listened to anything recently. And if you have, just kind of my take on some things. There's a couple of things that I think are a little testy with, with this whole COVID shit that's going around. Everybody's sick of it, I know, but talk about that. The NFL, yeah, something going on there. But Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley. Now this whole thing, a lot of these people, I don't really take the Paul brothers. If anybody doesn't know who the Paul brothers are, they're back when Vine, and if you don't know what Vine was, it's like a little video. It's kind of like what TikTok is now or Instagram Reels. But it was like a video comedy platform thing. A lot of people did talent, but the big ones that took off were like these Paul brothers and King Botch, whatever the heck his name is. The guys like that just took off with it. And the Paul brothers. Now I've never been a big fan of them. A lot of people I don't think are. I think they're a couple douchebags. Now, they were growing up, and what kind of sucks is like everything was broadcast to the internet to everybody, right? So you see them grow up, and then of course they get money and they make dumb decisions. Now, I don't know them, but just from the outside looking in, me personally, could care less about either of them. Logan, he's got his own podcast. He's doing well. He's actually been kind of more humble about some things. He was fighting as well. But this Jake kid, the one thing I'll give him credit to is that he knows like how to sell a fight, and he's 100% dedicated to this. As far as looking from the outside in, it looks like he's committed to this fight thing that he's doing, this boxing, and he's trying to fight and make money, and he's got the money to do it, the promotions. He's made so much money off this Vine stuff, YouTube, all these things, all the social media platforms, and the dude's killing it. So you got to give credit where credit's due. But I don't like Jake. Logan, the older one, he's okay now, in my opinion. A little more, humble, a little more mature. But this Jake kid, he's kind of a he's kind of a cocksucker. He's kind of sucks. But anyway, so he's fighting Tyron Woodley. If anybody doesn't know, Tyron Woodley was in the UFC. I mean, he was a champion. I'm not sure for what he fought. I think welterweight or middleweight. I'm not 100% sure. But the dude fights. I mean, he's more of a boxer type. I mean, he's all around type MMA fighter guy, right? So Ben Askren, who's the guy that that Jake fought in the last match, who a lot of people were looking at that as, oh, he's fighting a real fighter. Ben Askren was also in the UFC. He was, I think he's from Wisconsin, which is kind of cool. But he, Ben Askren was like this wrestler. He was known for grappling, getting on the ground. Well, him and Jake, it's a boxing match. The boxing, that's different. That's stand up. There's no feet. It's stick and move. I mean, boxing's tough. It's completely different. It's a dance in there. It's more of a dance than it is a fight, in my opinion. Now, no disrespect to the game of boxing, but MMA is, I mean, UFC, that's different. These are guys going after, I mean, they're really trying to hurt each other or trying to find ways to win the fight by knockout or submission. I mean, you're looking for more things to do here. It's more technical, real fight. Where boxing, you can get away. I mean, look at Floyd. He's the best fighter of all time, but as he was a defensive boxer, he was able to slip jabs and he knew how to win in points. Where in UFC you see more knockouts, you see more submissions, and less of like the point game in decision making in the fights there. But Jake and Tyron Woodley, this fight, Woodley can box. I mean, this dude can fight. He's a true. I mean, he can throw stones. He throws hands. So I think this fight's gonna be kind of big with as far as Jake's career, this Jake Paul's career in boxing. Now it's a little weird. It's just a little weird because all these celebrities that are coming out and fighting, you see them on Barstool. They have that rumble, like they have the midget or the little person fighting. No disrespect there. It's just that it's a comical sense, But to get all these celebrities and all these things, it's like celebrity death matches. Like they're getting all these whoever that wants to do it that might sell tickets to do it, and they make whatever money. I mean, the idea there, the premise is there. Make your money, do whatever you gotta do. It's interesting and it's entertaining for some. For me, not so much. But I'm curious to see the results of this Jake Paul fight because if he somehow pulls it out against Tyron Woodley, I think he gets a lot more respect from true fight fans. Because Tyron Woodley's an actual like fighter. He can stand up and box. This guy, if anybody knows and has seen him in his career, this guy actually knocks people out. He doesn't just grapple, bring him to the ground. That Ben Askren fight, it's kind of like a segue. I think Jake needed that to get to this level with this Tyron Woodley fight, but who knows? I mean, I just think if Jake Paul can win this thing, man, I think he's gonna gain a lot more respect from just the fighting community. I think he's lost too much respect from his social media stuff. I mean, kid sucks. I mean, outside of that, he sucks. As far as what you see, kid just sucks. I mean, he went from burning. I mean, he has so many house call like disturbing the peace calls at home, burning couches in his pool. I mean, the guy he just outright sucks. I mean, I haven't seen any kind of change. Now he just wants to fight. He's got money. He's paying guys to fight. I mean, do you, man? Do you? But if he pulls this out, I think it's going to be huge. Now, the big news that just came out with this Paul Woodley fight is they had, I think it was today, 26th, they had their face-off, their weigh-ins. I think it was a face-off. I don't know, promoting, whatever it was. But, of course, they got to find a way to sell the fight. Well, Jake Paul's crew, all these guys suck. Well, they start talking shit to Tyron Woodley's crew. But more importantly, Tyron Woodley's mother. Now, I don't know about you, but somebody starts talking crap to my mom, it ain't it. That ain't it right there. That's something you don't do. You can talk your shit, sell the fight, do whatever you got to do to promote the fight. But don't start saying nothing to my mom's or to Tyron Woodley's mom, to anybody's mom, sister, family. If it gets personal like that, that's when it gets. I mean, that's that line. That's that line. It's saying now it's not about just winning the fight and all this stuff. Now it's personal. I mean, there's guy was mouthing off. There's not quite sure what exactly was said. That hasn't been released to the media, but. Whatever was said, Tyron Woodley's mom confronted the guy in Jake Paul's crew, and they were hashing it out and going off. And there was all of a sudden there's pushing and shoving, and everybody's going at it. And they broke up. And Tyron Woodley, at the end of it all, he basically came out and he's just like, when somebody comes to disrespect my mother, which everybody should be that same, disrespects my mother, it's a whole issue. He's like, fuck the money, fuck the bag, fuck the pay-per-view, fuck the fight. When it comes to that, it's not tolerated. And I 100% agree. That's why I'm saying that Jake Paul, he's a cocksucker. Everybody he hangs out with, they all suck. I mean, they're just the worst kind of people, just shitheads. You just want to smack them all in the mouth, and get them out of here. But it's gonna. I mean, there's heat now. Now there's some fire behind this fight because Tyron Woodley. I mean, he's a very, straightforward guy. He comes up, he shows up, he fights, talks the shit that he needs to talk to sell the fight. But he's very straightforward. And I mean, that's his mother, dude. That's his mom's. So I don't know. I think it's gonna be definitely interesting. I want to see Jake Paul win it because I think the amount of effort he's putting into it, you gotta respect that. You gotta respect all that, and hopefully he can. Hopefully, he can get a little respect back from the fighting community because nobody's giving him a lick. They're seeing him. He's like, okay, the Ben Askren fight. Ben Askren's been in some brawls, but he's a grapple guy. He's not a fighter, as far as stand-up boxing kind of fighter. Tyron Woodley though is, and if Jake Paul can figure this out, and Jake can throw. I mean, if you've seen videos on him, if everybody knows, he can throw, and he's dedicating his life to becoming a professional boxer. Technically, he's a certified professional boxer, but as far as my personal opinion, he hasn't really won a good fight against anybody very notable. Tyron Woodley is finally a boxer, where this Jake Paul kid, he beats him. Who knows what's there? Maybe he starts going up. I mean, he's getting big. These are big name guys, so it's only up from there. That's all I got to say about Jake Paul, though, man. I already rambled off too much on this kid, but we'll see. Tyron Woodley, I hope Jake wins. In my opinion, I think Jake should win, but Tyron Woodley's Tyron Woodley just look him up, Google, see his accolades. He's the dude can brawl. Moving over to baseball. Now, I'm not huge on baseball as far as like the stats and the players and all that stuff. Me personally, I'll keep tabs on the Brewers. I'll keep tabs on the Cubs. I kind of like the Cubs. More of a Brewers fan though, I guess if you had to pick one, but just because local. But I don't know. I think it's just too early. Like baseball, like basketball, even I feel like there's too many games. Like it's too many games to hold my attention. Now, true fans watch every game. I get that. But for me personally, I just, it gets a little, it gets a little boring. It's like, yeah, it's kind of cool. I'll get those ESPN or SportsCenter updates on my phone, whatever it is. I'll get that update on my phone, be like, hey, Brewers won, blah, blah, blah. Pitching was blah, blah, blah. I'll get that. I'm good with that for now. Until it starts hitting to late August, like it is now, September, late September, October, when playoffs are hitting and finally getting into like the World Series or the ALC, like all these, the championship series and then it starts getting that's when it's interesting to me, and I think that's kind of the same nationally or globally. Once you get to the end, now the true fans obviously follow their teams the whole way, and very much respect to you guys for that. It's just too long of a season for me. Soccer, too many games. Like I can't, it doesn't keep my attention too much. It's fun to talk about with your buddies, but doesn't keep my attention too much. But we'll talk baseball for a little bit just because we haven't really talked about it on the podcast at all. I don't think we've mentioned it once. But the Brewers are killing it. I think they're 4th overall. They're 3rd in the National League. And it sucks because the Dodgers are always freaking good. There's no team I don't like more than the Dodgers. I hate the Dodgers. Just because they're so good. It's like Ohio State or Alabama or Ronda Rousey. You just don't like them. Now, you got to respect them because they're good, but you just don't like them. Ronda Rousey's been out, obviously, I know, but it's like people like that. Where you get these teams, they're just dominant. And it's like, now you can't be a fan of them because it's like you feel like you're bandwagoning, and nobody wants to bandwagon. Or you can't, even if you were a fan, now it's like you're like, oh, you're just a bandwagon. It's like, no, I've been with them when they're in their lows, but I hate the Dodgers, man. I hate them because they've just been so good, and they make the right moves, and they somehow have the money, and they figure out ways to just get all these star players, put them on one team. The Giants just did it too. I mean, look at the Giants pitching. The Giants 82-44. I think the Giants are number 1 overall. And then the Rays, I mean, there's nobody in the American League that's worth a damn, in my opinion. I mean, the Astros, ever since the cheating Astros, I can't take them serious. The Yankees should have been this dominant team, and they got Rizzo now, who's a household name for Chicago. Um, the Yankees, I don't understand that. I don't know if there's been injuries. I don't know because I don't keep tabs on the MLB as much or at all till the end of the season, really. But I don't know. The Rays on top there with a 79 win record. I mean, that's obviously it's impressive. But look at these 82 and 44 for the Giants, 80, 47, and there's still got a whole month of baseball left. And that's just too many games for me, man. That's just too many games for me that it just gets a little tough. But speaking of just the Brewers alone, I and this is more for local people. The Brewers, they're on a high right now. Peaks and valleys. They're on a peak. They've been on a peak for a little bit. The valley, I'm sure, is coming here. I hope they can pick it back up right at the end of the season going into the playoffs because the Reds are right on their tail. I know that. The Reds are right on their tail. The Cubs threw away their season. I think the Cubs are in third. So the rest of that Central Division is chalked. You can throw that away. The Brewers should have this easily. They're fourth overall, obviously in the MLB, doing very well. And I think it's the pitching. I mean, we all know the pitching's been great. You're looking at his stats. I mean, I think it was Burns that had he tied the strikeout record with 10 a couple weeks ago. But you look at the stats right now, the top 5 pitchers or the top 5 pitching categories right now. The ERA, the earned run average right now for the whole MLB, we got 2 pitchers in the top 5 with Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. 2 of them in top ERA. That's huge. That's absolutely insane. Because I think personally pitching is way more important than swinging the bat. Obviously, you want to swing the bat, obviously, right? But without pitching, you're nothing. You can score 15 runs a game swinging the bat, but if you're giving up 15, pitching and defense are going. That's obvious, and that might be an obvious take, but that's detrimental or whatever that word is. That's paramount. I think that's huge. That's way more important than swinging the bat, in my opinion. And we got 2 guys. The Brewers have 2 guys in top 5 in ERA. And I think we got 1 guy that leads in strikeouts. Or not leads, but he's 4th. Corbin Burns, 180 strikeouts this year. Nuts. 4th place. I mean, absolutely insane so far pitching. Defense has been phenomenal. The Brewers, man, if they can ride this high, except that they're going to have a valley, the bats are probably going to drop. I hope the pitching stays where it is. And then we peak again here in the next month, right into the playoffs. I got a feeling it's going to be nice. But Giants and the Dodgers, it's going to be tough to get to that series, man. It's going to be tough, but I don't know. We'll see. The Brewers are playing really good baseball right now, and I could not talk about them. I mean, locally, and I've had a couple people ask about the Brewers. Hey, why don't you talk about the Brewers? Blah 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 blah. And I'll tell them the same thing like I'm saying right now. I don't really follow baseball until the end, just because it's a little too long for me. Even now, just touching base, I don't want to keep going because there's not much to talk about for me. I mean, there's obviously a lot to talk about, but for me, it's just a little. I don't know. But moving on to the NFL. Now we can go football. That's what I know. That's my thing. Football, baby. But the biggest thing in the news right now, really as of late, is that the NFL is proposing testing from 14 days to 7 days for COVID. Now, in my opinion, all this COVID shit is more political than it is anything else. And everybody can have their opinions on that. I'm not going to really stress mine, but there's I think the stat is 93% of the NFL is vaccinated as it is, but they're still going to test. Now, what I don't want, because there's so much promise in this year. This year, I think it's going to be so competitive in the NFL this year. Injuries aside, that it's going to be a great year of football. They added an extra game. We're going to see how things play off as far as playoffs, and it's going to be awesome. I think it's going to be a great year for the NFL. But this whole COVID thing, I don't think fans and I don't think the nation, because right now with all the bullshit going on, As far as things going on in the Middle East, all this stuff, political this and that, all the bullshit. People need to find. They need things that they bring their attention to that entertain them aside from the negative. There's so much negative. They need some positive, and that's why sports and stuff like that is so huge because um, that's what people get into. That's a hobby for people. People love that. Whether it's betting on sports, just watching sports, talking about sports with their buddies, doing podcast stuff like this. I mean, they love it. And so when you throw wrenches in like this COVID thing where there's way too much bullshit from the outside pushing in, everybody puts that shield up and they don't want to deal with it. They don't touch what's not, don't touch their thing. And I kind of feel that way about all this as far as the Players Association, the NFLPA, they kind of cracking down and they want to go to testing every day. The Players Association does, which I mean, look how many. I think Tannehill, as of today, the 26th, Tannehill is on like a 7-day lapse for being out for testing positive or something. You know, and I hate when politics and stuff like that affect some things, especially shit that we love like the NFL and football. I'm just really worried that they're gonna yank the rug out from underneath, and I really cross my fingers that they don't, because it's looking like they're kind of pushing up against it and they're just following along, but and doing what they need to do. But if they start stepping in and ruining, I'm just worried that the whole season's gonna be, fantasy players, all these things. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, I got a guy out this week now because he tested and all this stuff, and I don't know. I just worry that it's gonna be a little. It's gonna get a little. People are gonna get a little angry with the way things are going, just because. I don't know. With all the negative in the world, like I said before, we need some positive in this thing. And the NFL was looking very positive, at least for me. And they're throwing this back in there. Now it's just more talks. I think they are gonna drop down. They decided on the 7-day testing and not the everyday testing of the players. But like I said, 93% of them are already vaccinated. So who knows? I just be wary, because just looking at the news, if everything starts falling apart because of that, I don't know. They had like 68 positive tests as of between August 1st and August 21st. I don't know, man. It sucks. I just really, like I said, I keep saying it again, but I just really hope that all these outside sources, this COVID stuff, doesn't affect this season again. Because back-to-back seasons, I mean, we need this. We need something, man. I'm so excited about this NFL season that I'm really, really don't want them to just pull the rug out or have this affect it crazy like it did last year or almost the year before, But preseason being almost over, we're just getting into the regular season here in the next couple weeks. Things are going wild. Fantasy drafts are going off. People are set. They're ready to go, and there's nothing worse than being super prepared to just have it taken out from underneath you. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully it doesn't affect it too much. But all right, moving on to college football. Kind of a segue into football. Is that the Pac-12 is not pursuing expansion at this time. So if you're watching and paying attention to the news, if you're a college football fan, you've seen that Oklahoma and Texas moved from the Big 10, or the Big 12 to the SEC. Now the SEC, I mean, those southern schools are stacked with talent, stacked. Okay, they're always in the finals for the most part. I mean, excluding Ohio State, who I hate Ohio State, but they're always in like the finals or the top. They're 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the playoff, in the college football playoff. So the Pac-12, now they formed kind of an alliance with the Big Ten and the ACC, like just shortly after all this came out, saying that they're gonna hold off on absorbing teams from the Big 12 and keeping the Big 12 the Big 12. So when there's balance throughout all these Power 5 conferences, like Big 10, Big 12, SEC, ACC, all these the big schools, the ones that have a chance actually of making the playoffs, the ones that are on ESPN, but there needs to be stability. So the Pac-12 came out and said that they're not going to absorb anybody, and they came with an alliance with the Big 10 and the ACC that they're not going to absorb any of these teams from the Big 12. Basically disassembling or whatever the Big 12, making the Big 12 no more for the future. And so what that does is that it keeps the Big 12 the Big 12, and it allows them to absorb a couple other teams from wherever, right, to keep their conference stacked up, you know. The one thing that can't happen, though, is what they hope is that the ACC doesn't absorb some of them. I guess that's kind of in the works, that there's a talk, but apparently there's this alliance right now formed between the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC. That they're saying they're not gonna try to pull from the Big 12. They're more willing, it seems, to add to the Big 12. Not exactly sure how that's gonna be, but that changes a lot, like where teams go. I mean, look at like Maryland's in the Big 10 now. Like, there's been a lot of moving around in college football over the last decade, but we'll see. I like that because the Big 12, it's huge. I mean, I don't understand Oklahoma and Texas leaving. I don't get that. It doesn't make sense to me. Run your conference. You're dominant. You're still playing all these other Power 5 schools. You're mixing and matching. I think they can rearrange the scheduling a little bit with these D1 schools as far as who plays who. Like, Alabama doesn't need to play Appalachian State week 1. They don't need to do that. That doesn't make any sense to me. It should be competitive all year round, because then it's like, okay, Alabama went undefeated. Now obviously they're great. They recruit well, but give them a challenge. Like, Wisconsin had to play LSU in Lambeau one year, and Wisconsin's Power 5, so they went Power 5. Excuse me. But Alabama week 1's playing Appalachian State. What? So maybe adding teams to the SEC might balance that schedule out, I guess. But that doesn't make sense. I hope that they fix the scheduling issue, because these big teams playing no-name schools are stupid. That's why there's a difference between the FCS and the FBS. I think it's FBS. But there's a difference. All Division I, but it's like there's lower than higher and higher. And it's all about recruitment. College football is about recruitment, 1,000%. You can, if you don't have good, and then obviously keeping the rules in the NCAA. Look at Miami. I mean, they were suspended for 3 years back in like 92 or whatever it was. They didn't do so hot with all the allegations going on there. But I don't know. Recruitment is everything. Like I said, that Miami, it's a testament. Recruitment is everything. And Alabama's been doing it. Winning brings players in. Saban has been winning. He's somehow under the table stuff now that they can make money. I don't know. But he was able to bring in these top guys, top 300 high school athletes, like most of them. Alabama, Florida commits. It's all these Power 5 big, So keep it competitive. Well, why dismember the Big 12, which I'm glad that the Pac-12 and the Big 10 and ACC all announced an alliance that they're not going to try to pick teams from there and bring them in with them, that they're going to keep them to keep it balanced and allow them to pull teams from other places. But I don't know. I just need to keep it balanced, because I'm sick of seeing Bama in the thing. I'm just sick of seeing them just kind of skate their way up there, have an super easy schedule, and just get there. I mean, I don't know, man. There needs to be a change in some things, because college football it's just too easy now. There's too many schools, and they're playing no-name schools. You look at like Florida Atlantic. Was it Florida Atlantic? I don't know, but whatever Florida team it was a few years ago, that they went undefeated in their schedule, but they made maybe a bowl game. But Alabama, who lost one game I think that season, was in the Final Four. But it's like, that didn't make sense. Or they won it, and they were saying that they were the champs. I think I don't know. That happens way too often. It just happens way too often that something needs to happen there. I think adding Texas and Oklahoma might help that, or it will help that as far as the scheduling goes, and it keeps it more competitive in the SEC. But that's got to be all. I mean, the Big Ten's always been competitive. The Pac-12's kind of been competitive. The ACC, it kind of drops off from there if you can't tell. ACC's been pretty competitive, but Big 12 used to be competitive. I don't know. You look at everything, it's the ACC. It's the SEC and Ohio State. It's the SEC and the Ohio State. Clemson, I guess, in the ACC. But there needs to be some change. I'm sick of seeing the same schools in the college football playoff. And speaking of the college football playoff, Why are they only limited to a handful of schools? What's wrong with a big tournament? I think the idea of a big tournament and one versus 16 seed, and all these Division One schools on both sides, and you narrow that down to your Final Four. I think that's way more interesting than the top four or whatever top six teams go, and it's always Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and then LSU and the same schools. Boring. Oklahoma, just boring. Get somebody else in there. Let Appalachian State win one. You know what I mean? Let Florida Atlantic win one. It's just college football is a little predictable at this point. But hopefully they figure things out with the scheduling. With Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC, hopefully they fill the Big 12 and get that back, or whatever they call it, Big 10, whatever. Well, not the Big 10, but they get it back to what it used to be. College football becomes a little more competitive again. I mean, I don't know. It should be interesting. I'm glad that the Pac-12 decided to officially say that they're not pursuing any kind of expansion, along with the Big 10 and the ACC. Stabilizes everything and keeps things balanced, and that's good. That's the way it should be, balanced and competitive. Nobody wants a one-sided landslide victory. You know what I mean? That's not fun. It's not exciting. Anticlimactic. But that'll about wrap it up though. Sorry that I didn't have anybody to bounce things off of. Enough I was rambling too much, getting off topic. I try to keep things moving, keep it semi-smooth. But this is the first time doing this, so thanks for bearing with me through it if you made it this far. But pay attention to the YouTube. We're going to record tomorrow. We're going to do kind of like a funny video. Just going to be YouTube only, YouTube exclusive, youtube.com/eastkrokpodcast. We did a Mad Libs one. We might do another Mad Libs one because we know how that works, so it might be the same thing. But I might do like a whisper challenge or something. I'm not sure exactly. But stay tuned. That's going to drop. Follow us on all our social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You'll find everything. We try to keep up to date on it. It's been growing slowly, and thanks to everybody that's been supporting the show so far. It's awesome. This is really fun to do. I didn't really think it would be, and I'm kind of a more behind the camera kind of guy. And Harry and David are like, they could be more of like in front of the camera, but it's been fun, so to say the least. So thanks again though for everybody that's been supporting us. We do have merch coming. The numbers on that, like as far as prices go, it's nothing gonna be too crazy. I'm trying to get a discount on things, but we'll let you know if you get on our socials. It's gonna be updated on our Instagram and Twitter for sure. And we'll reach out to anybody following the show or supporting our Patreon, especially Patreon most likely not even have to pay for it. So if you want to come support the show, patreon.com/eastkrokpodcast. There's a general support, and then there's it's like a tier thing where there's another tier where you can get kind of exclusive weekly content. That's going to be more so once that picks up and when people are coming into it. We got 1 or 2 now, Patreons, which again, thank you. Awesome. Much love to you guys. And big things are coming. Hopefully, hopefully things keep moving along. With Harry being in college, it's going to be a little difficult as far as getting him on, like I said before, but things have been fun so far, and support has been great. Like I said, merch coming. Follow our socials. YouTube, if you're listening to this, go to YouTube. You can watch our ugly faces talk. If you're watching, go to Spotify. Everything's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We got it all out there. Everything's out there. You just find your avenue, find your approach. Again, thanks so much for all the support so far. Let us know, or let me know if this is something that you'd want to see more one-on-one stuff, maybe shorter videos, kind of edited out a little better. But for a first try thing, this is what it is. So thanks again for listening. Thanks again for supporting the show. And I'm out. Peace.